wondered for us this morning if we could just consider how much is enough. You pause for a moment and you think about your life. You think about the things you do. You think about the things you have. You think about who you're becoming. How much is enough? It'd be hard to answer it. Like if we asked every single person in this room right now, I believe we would get a very different answer from every single person. And what we would learn is that it's really hard to define how much is enough. And I would offer to us this morning that if this isn't a question that we're faced with often, or that if we consider it often, there's never enough. I think in so many ways, maybe you've heard of John D. Rockefeller. He was asked, how much more money do you need? And he said this. Like if someone came and asked you, like, how much more square footage would you like to have in your life? And you'd be like, just a little bit more. You know, how much is enough in regard to vacations and experiences? Like, well, I don't know, another one? That'd be great. How much more of you do you need to become? Well, if I can just become a little bit more like this, we could just keep going and going and going. It's the endless treadmill. Now, we can read this right now in this room and be like, of course that's not the answer. We have a good group of folks here that would be like, no, that's not the way in which life is meant to be. It's not just about accumulating, getting more, and just the next thing, and we don't just answer that question with more. But we swim in a culture where that is the answer. Just a little stats here that draw this out a little bit. You and I experience about 5,000 advertisements per day. Now, what's changed is that we're not necessarily told what we need the way advertisers have worked out the way in which they relate to people. They more now get down to the affections, the things that we don't know that we need or want, but we actually do need or want. It's an unfamiliar territory. And they get there by recording your conversations through your devices and your Zoom calls, and like we know this now, right? It was a secret for a long time where we're all like, I feel like I'm being recorded. Why did all this new grass product show up on my phone as advertisements because I was Googling for grass last week? No, it's real, monitoring, right? And they can get to the things that we're not even aware of wanting or desiring, and they can get to that. Over 300,000 items are in the average American home. Again, that's average. That's not the immaculate or the wealthy or the massive. That's what probably many of us would consider we're average. And in so many ways, we're above average. In so many ways, we're below. But in and around that, we have 300,000 items. You can probably name like 60 of them. But there's 300,000 items in the average home, 2 times the material goods we purchase beyond what was purchasing 50 years ago. So it has doubled in the last 50 years. Every American could live or sleep in a 7.3 square foot space that is equivalent to how much storage space we have in America. Every single person could be housed in a storage unit, essentially. That's how many goods we have that sit in storage, not even inside our home. The average American has $15,000 of credit card debt. You and I, on average, could spend 153 days looking for a lost item. Top of the list are phone and keys, which in our household, I probably spend 27 days, and then I spend the rest helping my wife find her phone. As she nods, it's a joke. It's often like, hey, I'll help you, but I don't know where it is. This is just, we very so quickly swim in waters in which possessions and accumulation and wealth and goods and items are just consuming us. What's weird, though, in that idea of consumption, Freud's nephew at the turn of the 20th century, post the World War, had a famous line that we, again, probably don't know, but we feel. And he said, we have to turn Americans from citizens to consumers. This is oftentimes why, after a massive national crisis or something, the answer oftentimes is to get out and spend. When things are happening, how do we put stimulus money into people's pockets to go spend money to keep our economy going? The experiment in which we find ourselves in, called America, is built on the idea that we can't just be citizens, but we need to be consumers. Do you feel that? How much did you consume this week? And I'm not standing here saying, this isn't my life either. Like, I feel this on an everyday basis. If we're not careful, if we're not aware of, the question of how much is enough is actually driving our lives. And the answer, when unchecked, will always be more. More than what I have currently. Now, a part of this, even if we just look at this list, it's such a short list, and we can keep going more and deeper. And I think the question under the question then is like, how are you doing? How's your soul? How's your mind? How's your health? Are you stressed? Are you worn out? Are you overwhelmed? Are you overcommitted? Do you not just feel like maybe I don't have enough, but maybe I'm not enough? Like, how is this actually impacting the way that you wake up? The way in which you go to sleep, the way in which you relate to yourself and to others throughout the day? Is there margin in your life? Do you feel peace? Do you feel joy? This can all start to work down at a soul level in so many ways, again, when it goes unchecked. And Jesus offers us these words as we'll start to look at what he has to say and maybe a way out for us. In Luke 12, someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "Man," I'm always so curious, like, how did he pronounce man in this situation? Was he like, man, or was it like, man? I don't know. Like, I love like the one word. And like, he's like, I think he's pretty upset with this guy. "Who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" Then he said to them, "Watch out. Be on your guard." Two times in a row. Watch out. Be on your guard. Caution. 2 times in a row. May you catch what I'm about to hear. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. I don't know if it's comforting or discomforting to know that for thousands of years, people have looked for things in their possessions. Because he wouldn't be talking to them about this if they weren't trying to find something in the possessions in which they had. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. If you were to think about what you're most stressed about right now, maybe what you're most fearful about, what you're most worried about, what keeps you up at night, what might be driving anxiety higher, how much of it actually has to do with what you possess? Maybe it's an item you own, maybe it's a plan for your future, maybe it's the thing that you hold and revere that you're proud about. Maybe it's people. I mean, we can keep going down what the thing is that we can think that we possess. And is that not oftentimes the thing that causes you the most stress? When it's lost, when it's not well, the anxiety, the fear, the concern. So I want to offer us over the next few weeks that a part of what Jesus is inviting us to is to live simply. That it may not be found in possessions, so what would it be found in? And if life to the fullness isn't found in possessions, then maybe it's found in the lack of possessions. Well, in some ways we don't fully see that also, but I want us to consider that living simply is actually a way of living fully, and that we can actually find more in less. I know that can feel countercultural and counterintuitive. Much of my days and weeks are spent of forward thinking and what's next and what could be the thing that we got to add here. And we can just keep doing it over and over and over again. But what if the way of experience the fullness of life that Jesus has come to offer us, the abundant life that he talks about, one filled with peace and joy and hope and faith, that it might actually be found in less of what we think we need more of. And it might be found in more of what he is offering us that counters what we most naturally think. he goes on to speak to this group. He tells this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. Then he said, this is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will still store up my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. You can hear this farmer moving from, he's worked so hard to produce much in this time of an agrarian culture. Not only was this for him, but this actually would have been feeding and taking care of other people. He would have people working for him. He would be called to have margin in his crop for the sake of the poor and the widowed and the orphan. I mean, so many things. And all of a sudden he says, I have so much, I'm just going to store it up. I'm going to put my feet back and just hang out. Sip a couple of pina coladas, go on some more vacations. I don't need to have all these concerns that I've been having. But God said to him, you fool. This very night your life will be demanded from you. Now, we don't know if that means that the Grim Reaper shows up like that evening and he's just like, oh shoot, my life's going to end. But what Jesus is trying to draw out is, hey, at any moment, your life could be gone. At any moment, life is but a vapor and everything could just be over. Now, whether that's your life physically, or maybe it's your possessions, maybe it's your dreams, maybe it's your vocation, things can end abruptly. Then, who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. Now, in my mind, it's very easy to think about the whoever as others. I don't immediately include myself in the whoever. That he's actually talking to me in the way in which I possess things and the way I accumulate things, the way I build up things, and the way I, pay extra a year to make sure Amazon gets things to me within like 1 to 2 days versus like 5 to 7. Over and over again, whoever, any single person who is finding their life or doing the thing of accumulation of possessions, whoever stores up things for themselves but is not rich toward God. Do you consider yourself as part of the whoever? In what ways might you be storing up for yourself in this season? In what ways is it looking out for number one? In what ways is it, I don't feel like I have enough yet, so that next thing will be the thing? In what ways is it maybe trying to become more? Another moment of status, another privilege to gain. In what ways might you be storing up possessions? Now, what's interesting about the whoever piece is very quickly, I could say, well, I'm individualistic. I make my decisions, and I choose when I'm going to get something or not. No one else is telling me that I need that. I actually do need that. And no one else is going to make me want something. I'm going to want that because it's true to who I am. And yeah, I've thought about it and the impact of it, all these different things. Like, I know this. But the interesting part about us, you and I, is that while we think we might be one person, the reality is that we are made up of many parts. I mean, some of us do Enneagram work and the DISC test and the Myers-Briggs, and what you learn is there's different personality functions within us, but even inside the Enneagram, we might say things like, I am a, and then we say this number afterwards, which first of all is boxing ourselves in a weird way. You're not your number if you do any Enneagram work. If you do too much of it, bless you. If you don't do any of it, bless you also. But we're made up of parts. We know that there could be a wing, that when we operate in stress, we go to a different number. When we're in health, we go to a different number. So even in that, when we say we're one number, we're still made up of multiple parts. Richard Foster, in his book, Freedom of Simplicity, says this, a little bit of a longer quote. Within all of us is a whole conglomerate of selves. There is the timid self, the courageous self, the business self, the parental self, the religious self, the literary self, the energetic self. And all of these selves are rugged individuals. No bargaining or compromise for them. Each one screams to protect his or her vested interests. If a decision is made to spend a relaxed evening listening to chop in the business self and the civic self, rise up and protest at the loss of precious time. The energetic self paces back and forth, impatient and frustrated, and the religious self reminds us that lost opportunities for study or evangelistic contact. If the decision is to accept an appointment on the Human Services Board, the civic self smiles with satisfaction, but all the excluded selves filibuster. No wonder we feel distracted and torn. No wonder we overcommit our schedules in the lives of frantic faithfulness. Do you ever feel this? This tension inside of you of what to say yes to and what to say no to, that there's moments of feeling torn over every little aspect and nuance of the day, and you could finish a day saying, having said yes to everything, feeling like you should have said no to more, or maybe you said no to everything and felt like you could have said yes to a couple things. Over and over again, you and I are navigating each and every day as a made up of parts. And at certain times, in certain seasons, certain parts will speak louder than other parts. And in certain moments and with certain people and in certain areas of our life, certain parts will show up more than others. And we're constantly working through this idea that we're made up of multiple parts. And so what part of you tends to speak the loudest to desire more? What part of yourself is more tending towards saying yes just for the sake of pleasing other people? What part of yourself is trying to find comfort in owning more items? What part of yourself is climbing some kind of a ladder for social esteem? What part of yourself is avoiding actually opening up and revealing truly who you might be? Do you see how on every single day there are ways in which you and I are showing up in a space with multiple parts, and we're trying to figure out what part is showing up, what part am I suppressing, what part am I letting go, what part am I opening up to, what part is saying yes, what part is saying no. This is a part of why I think life is so exhausting, because we're trying to figure out how to fulfill the thing that we long for. The connections that we long for, the love that we long for, the peace that we long for, the joy that we long for. And every day there are things in front of us to say yes and to say no to. So what do we do? Foster continues, but when we experience life at the center, notice that he capitalizes center, all is changed. Our many selves come under the unifying control of the divine arbitrator. No longer are we forced to live by an inner majority rule, which always leaves a disgruntled minority. The divine yes or no settles all minority reports. Everything becomes oriented to this new center of reference. The quiet evening can be enjoyed to the fullest because our many selves have been stilled by the holy within. The business self, the religious self, the energetic self, all are at peace because they know we are living in obedience. There is no need to wave the flag of self-interest, since all things good and needful will be given their proper attention at the appropriate time. We enter a refreshing balance and equilibrium in life. Foster is saying that there is a God of the center who has invited us to rest and live in him. Oftentimes, we maybe in the church use language that we have invited God into our life. And while that's true, we will miss out on the fullness of life if we do not consider ourselves being invited into his life. He is at the center, not you and I. But every day we have 5,000 ads telling us that we are at the center of all things. And because we're at the center, we need more. We get to determine what more is. We can continue to fill the thing in which we long for by our own decisions, which, as we've just heard from Foster, are made up of so many multiple parts that tear us open inside, all trying to fight for the same decision to say yes or to say no. Foster is saying that there's something at the center of you and I that will ground us, that will give us peace, that will give us a life greater than what we can accumulate on our own. Jesus says this, continuing in Luke. He says to his disciples, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothes. Consider the ravens. They do not sow or reap. They have no storeroom or barn. yet God feeds them. And how much more valuable you are than the birds. Who of you, by worrying, can add a single hour to your life? Since you cannot do this very little thing, why do you worry about the rest? Consider how the wildflowers grow. They do not labor or spin, yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, how much more will he clothe you, you of little faith? And do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it. Now this can be weird because you're like, well, I guess, do I not go to the grocery store? Do I not put clothes on in front of all these wonderful people? Please continue to go to the store and buy clothes. Continue to go to the grocery store and eat food. But he's saying with the birds of the air, they're living into what they're supposed to live into, and much is taken care of for them. Like the lilies of the field, they live into being the flower, and they do exactly what the flower is supposed to do. The flower is not supposed to be jumping around the field looking for greater soil. The flower is to remain grounded and rooted exactly where they were planted. And he's saying to you and I in so many ways, do you not also trust that God sees you? Do you not also see that God has called you and I to certain things in certain ways, and it is good and it is right? And it is a way of life that you cannot create your own by jumping around the field trying to find better soil. Life is not found in an abundance of possessions. You and I can keep trying to accumulate and doing more and more and more. But God seems to be saying, still stand still and trust that I see you. And then he goes to say, for the pagan world runs after all such things, and your Father knows that you need them. This would be a direct insult. He's saying basically those who have no life with God, they run after all those things. Meaning the things that he's talking to his people about, the things he's talking to you and I about right now, all the possessions that we're trying to find, all the ways of possessing more and more and more. Man, they run after it. They go hard after it. But your Father knows that you need those things. He knows that you need to be clothed. He knows that you need to be fed. He knows that you have social and emotional and physical needs. He sees all of them. For the pagan world runs after all such things, and your Father knows that you need them, but seek his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. This could be argued as the center of this passage. Matthew would say, but seek first his kingdom, meaning that there is a central aspect to the life that you and I have been invited into. Seek first the kingdom. Not go to the store, but seek first his kingdom. And yeah, if you need some food, go get some food. Hey, should I go buy clothes? Well, I don't know, seek first his kingdom and then, maybe go buy some clothes. Do I not take that, new job that's going to offer more for my family and live into this and do that? Well, hold on. Seek first God and his kingdom and then, figure out if you're supposed to do that. Should we move across the country to this thing because we can be closer to this or to that? Well, hold on. Seek first his kingdom and then determine whether you should move or not. We can go big decisions and small decisions. God is saying over and over again, if I am not at the center of your life, you will just continue to seek and to chase and to consume and to fill your life with so many things that will not give you the life that you're actually looking for. Pause, stop, seek me first, and then let the rest fall into place. Make decisions as you make decisions. Go along your way as you go along your way. Life with God is so filled with grace that we can take 12 wrong steps and then we only have to take a half step to fall right back into place in the way in which God has invited us to. Seek first his kingdom, and then the rest will work out. The practice here that seems to be at the center of what Jesus is asking us to do is to practice simplicity. Can you and I see that our life, we could actually find more in less? God seems to be saying, like, stop worrying about all the things that you most naturally worry about. Stop worrying about all the things that the world is telling you that you need and that you don't have enough of. So just stop worrying about all that stuff. I've got you. I know exactly what you need. I see you. Come into the rest in the life that I have invited you. Come to abide in the vine of my love and my grace, my kindness and my mercy. The stuff's going to figure itself out. The kids, they're going to figure themselves out. The car, it's going to work out. The house thing, social status, it's going to work out. Will you actually seek me and my kingdom and the things that I'm inviting you to? So maybe at this point, a helpful definition, while there's many and there's not just one, Richard Foster says, simplicity is an inward reality of single-hearted focus upon God and his kingdom, which results in an outward lifestyle of modesty, openness, and unpretentiousness, and which disciplines our hunger for status, glamour, and luxury. See, like, the weird part about this is, like, Jesus never says, like, how many pairs of shoes you're supposed to own in your closet or not. He's not like, hey, when you go buy a car, like, here's, like, the max price. Hey, when you're thinking square footage in your house, like, that's a little bit too much, or you could probably do a little bit more, and you're still within, like, my love. Like, we just don't see that, right? And so there's a part in which he's saying, like, I'm inviting you to live at the center, and, like, those things are going to work themselves out, because what happens when you're transformed from the inside, like, the outward stuff starts to follow. Like, you'll figure it out. I think in so many ways, I can see many of your faces in this room. I know many of you have, like, continued just to simplify your life in very courageous ways. And that didn't come because at the age of 5, you were like, I'm going to, like, give all this stuff up and, like, move into this place, or I'm going to go serve these people over here. No, like, things happened in you along the way that moved you towards simplifying in certain ways. And the good news and the bad news is that you're still being called to simplify in more and more ways. Like, the experiences and the transformation is continuing to happen. And every single person has a different starting point and will have a different end point. But are we moving towards the center that says, I don't have to just keep possessing and self-fulfilling. I can find life in God and what he has to offer. Couple examples. I'm going to invite the worship team forward. My coach, Ahmad Tusi, for a number of years in soccer, he used to say, simplicity is genius. He would also tell us to eat the grass when we didn't play well. And he would also say, you're so stupid. I can still hear it every night when I lay my head on my pillow. Just kidding. Ahmad was such a blessing. Genuinely, like, he was my coach in 2001 when planes struck the towers in New York and we went to war. And very quickly we can make ideas and determinations of who's who in our world. And I saw us go to war with the East. And yet I had someone from the East working in and through my life in ways I couldn't see in that moment, and someone that I loved and respected dearly. But one of the things he would say was simplicity. He would always yell at Larry. Larry dribbled too much in soccer. It's kind of like the basketball player doing all the jukes, but, like, just stands in one place. Or, like, if you ever played Madden and, like, you're the running back and you're just doing a bunch of spins in the backfield and, like, you're not doing anything. Like, basically, Larry was that guy in the center of the field. And he'd always yell at Larry, like, Larry, just pass the ball. Like, stop taking so many touches. You're doing nothing with it. And he would say simplicity is genius. And what's genius is that you take a touch and you pass the ball. You take a touch and you pass the ball, knowing that you're moving forward towards an end goal. Can we simplify the way in which we try to do our life? Can we make things more simple in a way that says, man, I can be so much more flexible to go in this direction or that direction as God calls, because I don't have as many things tying me down. My ego isn't wrapped up in this as much as it is right now or today. I don't have all these things I have to figure out when I'm supposed to go in this way. Simplicity is genius. You and I can step into a fuller life when we have the freedom to do so. This happened for my dad a number of years ago. This is an image of our house growing up. And he had just gotten back from Haiti, I think for the second time. And he tells a story that he pulled up to the driveway right here on this left side. He looked at the house, and immediately he just got hit by it, hit him and just said, I'm owned by all of this. Like, very quickly, you and I think we own everything that we have. But if we actually break it down, the reality is that there's so much of the things that we own actually own us. And that was a moment in which his life started to change. And things started to shift, and simplicity started to enter in different ways. What are you owned by right now that you're not supposed to be? What has a hold of you in ways that God is saying that's not for you to worry about? It's not what you're supposed to be focusing most on. In the end, it's just going to be taken care of. Can you pull away from that and step into the center? I think to all of us, as we're trying to navigate this life of having too much or too little, Jesus in the end says this: "Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give it to the poor. Provide purses for yourselves that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven that will never fail, where no thief comes near, no moth destroy. For where your treasure is, there your heart will lie also." Do not be afraid, my sheep, those who I tend to and I care for. Your Father is so pleased to give you everything that you need. He's so pleased. He loves you so much. He sees everything that you need, and he is so pleased to give it to you freely. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to strive for it. And then it changes the way you start to see your stuff. Sell it. Give them all away. The things that you have could actually move outwards from you and be a blessing to others. Does that mean everyone sells everything they have and gives to the poor? Well, we see that example a couple times in the scriptures, and some people have been called to that. Maybe someone in this room is called to that. It's maybe a little bit more descriptive and not prescriptive. But what might be your step this morning? What might be the thing in which God is highlighting to say, don't worry, I see you. I'm going to give you everything that you need. I have given you everything that you need. Give it to me. Give it to someone else. Just give it away. You don't need this anymore. For where your treasure is, there your heart will lie also. You and I will follow the things in which we value. We will move towards the values that we have. So you guys want to try something fun this week? You're going to give something away. I'm going to ask seriously, I would love for every single one of us to give something away. No, not the half-broken thing that's sitting in the back corner of the backyard. That's easy. Can you give something away that you value? That when you look at it, the first thought is, I can't give that away. There's no way. I spent this much money on it this many years ago, which just, we'll probably realize how much we overspend on things in that moment. But can it be something of meaning and value, something that you find meaning and value in? Now, we're not just going to Marie Kondo everything and just, get rid of everything. Maybe you want to do that. But what if you actually pause and consider the vision and values that you have for your life? Do you have those? Because if not, the answer will always be more. But if you had a vision to say, man, I want to be a person of extreme generosity, well, then what you have to value is not spending every single dollar that you own on yourself. You actually have to value margin. You have to value saving. You have to value limiting what you spend your money on. If you want to be a person of peace, that's a vision for your life, well, then you need to find and value graceful rhythms in your life. Not filling up every single moment of your day on a calendar, not overcommitting, not saying yes to things you don't actually want to do or that fit that vision. Do you see that? Values will follow the vision we have. If we don't have a vision, we're just going to wander aimlessly towards more. So I would ask you this week to consider the vision that you have for your life, the values that actually feed that vision, and then look at your stuff and say, what's not helping me move towards that vision? I want to go on more experience trips with my family or my friends or to be more in contact with the poor. Well, I sit around and watch Netflix 12 hours a day. Okay, you should probably get rid of your TV because you're just never going to get off the couch. Whatever it is, there's things that aren't aligning in our life with the vision and values that we have. So you consider those first, and then give something away this week. You can drop it off at a thrift. You can give it to a person, just something. Give something away that you find meaning in and that's hard to get rid of. And then I would love to receive some emails of what happened inside of you. Next week, I'll read a story that I was going to pull up, but this sermon ended up not being as simple as I wanted it to. And I've gone longer. Genuinely, though, can we try that? Raise a hand who actually wants to try that this week. No shame in this game. We're going to do that? Now you're all accountable. So everyone saw you raise your hand. So let's try it. Let's see what happens. Let's create room. The end goal is not to live a simple life. The end goal is to live at the center with God. And simplicity is a way in which we create space to move towards that center, or better yet, allow that center to move towards us. Why don't we stand together?